Welcome back to the Daily Grind, Daily Memphis Grizzlies show right here on Bluff City Media. I'm your host, Mark. Usually joined by my co-host Luke, but he is out again with the kind of the flu symptoms going on. So he was back for one day, but he is back on the injury list. Hopefully he feels better. So just me with you today. We're going to talk about lots of things on the show today. Mavericks, Grizzlies played yesterday. Stats monster in the second segment, and then of course, what do we think will happen when Ja returns, or until Ja returns, in the third segment of the show? We've talked about that quite a bit on this show over the past few weeks, kind of where we think Ja's going to be, or where we think the team's going to be when Ja returns, and how many wins they might have, and what that might look like. So yeah, it's going to be just a few more games until Ja returns. Luckily, the Grizzlies just have it's weird because they don't have a lot of games this next week and a half or so. It feels like a long time until he returns because it's only, I guess, 12th of December now. It's going by quicker than I thought. I should know that because today's my anniversary. Shout out to my beautiful wife, letting me stay married to her for 15 years. So, but the months going by quicker than I thought. The games are slow this week, and so this will be the last full week until the Grizzlies don't have Ja Morant back in the lineup. They did have some trial stuff they had going on yesterday with Ja, and the trial happening with his the scuffle that happened last summer at his house, pickup basketball, where he threw the basketball at somebody. I don't really want to get into that much because it's just like the trial is just kind of ludicrous. Drew Hill and Jeff Calkins with the Daily Memphis did a great job covering that trial yesterday. Go check out some of their stuff. I mean, they got really into the nitty gritty and the weeds of it. So I would say go check out some of their stuff, their Twitter and their stories, because the trial itself is just kind of ludicrous, right? Like it's just kind of stupid. But I digress. Hopefully that will wrap itself up sooner rather than later as well. The Grizzlies lose last night, 120-113 against the Dallas Mavericks. It is going to be, I thought they might have a shot. We talked about it on the show last time we were on last week. I know that Daniel and Luke talked about it yesterday. Since I was out with a doctor's appointment myself yesterday, but they talked about it on the show, kind of previewing the game. The Mavs weren't fully healthy as well. They had some people like Kyrie rolled his ankle last week. And so they had some injury kind of concerns on their own. Did have Luka Doncic back. They did not have him in the game that they played on the last game they played together. And so it is, again, I thought we'd have a chance. Did not turn out. The Grizzlies lose 120-113. And they're still 6-16 on the season. Let's start with some good things about last night. Jaren Jackson Jr., probably, I'd say, best game of the season by far. 41 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, only 3 fouls, and that's a win for Jaren. 15 for 29 from 3, 6 for 10 from 3, 15 for 29 from the field. Excellent game from Jaren, and it feels like we wasted it. Honestly, it really does. It feels like we wasted it, but at the same time, like if he doesn't have that, they're not even like remotely in the game. Jaren was fantastic. 41 minutes. He hit those like 2 threes right out of the gate, and I was like, all right, that's a great sign for Jaren to come out of the gate hitting threes right away. But the story for this team, this game is kind of the same story we've seen all along. They just don't have enough people to score the basketball, and they just shot themselves in the foot like they've done multiple times this season, letting the game kind of get away from them in the second quarter. And they did that in the second quarter last night. Just really let the game get away from them. They get down by 20 points. I think it was at one point. I know at least 17. And they just don't have the offense to come back from that. Like they just don't have the offense to come back from 20 down. And we saw in the third quarter, in the fourth quarter, like their defense tightened up. They played much better defense. And they just couldn't ever get past that like 9 point deficit, 11 point deficit to really make it a game. And that was the issue. There was never going to be, and I was running the Grizzlies Twitter, Bluff City Media Grizzlies Twitter last night, and I think I tweeted this, like you can't, if this team gets down by more than like 14 points, like the game's over. That's just like the reality of the situation, is that you can't, they don't have that firepower to come back from that type of game, to come back from that type of deficit. Desmond Bane into the first quarter had like 5 points. Like, I mean, just was not good. I think I remember at halftime, I want to say Jaren had 18, Desmond had 15, and the 9 other players that played had 15 points total between 9 players. So, I mean, it's just not going to work. The Grizzlies rolled out a new starting lineup with Santi Aldama in it, Derrick Rose, David Roddy, Desmond Bane, and Jaren Jackson Jr. playing Santi Aldama at the 4, Jaren at the 5. And we saw right off the bat, the Grizzlies, they lack the bigs to compete with most centers on every night. I mean, they cannot rebound the ball when they have Jaren Jackson at the 5. Even, and to be clear, even Bismack Biyombo, who has been very pedestrian over the last 2 weeks, like I know we on the show, we like, yeah, he's gonna be signed for the year. And to be clear, I do expect that still to happen, but he has not been good. They've got to figure out a center situation going forward. And that's, do they want to have Steven Adams on the team long term? If they do make a trade for any type of big man, any kind of front court player, I think that's a trade that you probably look at for future trades, right? For future years, right? It's a trade where you want to get somebody back that's going to be here long term, and you probably are moving away from Steven Adams. But we've seen this night in and night out. They just cannot rebound the ball. They are not big enough. I mean, even Bismack, I think Bismack's on like 6'9". They just are not big enough to compete with the other bigs. I mean, Derek Lively was literally just killing them. 16 rebounds for Derek Lively last night. 11 defensive rebounds and 5 offensive rebounds, like by himself. And Derek Lively's average right now, let's see what it is right now, per game. 8 rebounds per game is his average. He had 16 last night. 3 offensive rebounds per game is his average right now, and he had 5 by himself last night. I mean, the second chance points was pretty abysmal, and it just they just don't have an answer. Late in that third quarter, the defense tightened up. I can't say good enough things about Vince Williams Jr. He, excuse me, I think he did the best job on Luka all night. I know David Roddy started on him, but I think Vince Williams really made his life hard. Now, Luka is going to get his points because he's Luka Doncic, and he's extremely good at basketball. He's a superstar, honestly. So he still has 35 and 8 rebounds. But I think that Vince Williams Jr. made his life difficult, made his life challenging, at least challenging to score the basketball. At least it made him work more for the basketball. Yeah, he made some mistakes. There was a couple of times where they were doubling on Luka's post. They were doubling on his spin to the post, which worked out really. Forced Luka to pass the ball, but a couple of times they forced him to pass the ball, and then Vince Williams lost Luka right away, and they found him again, and he had a couple threes. So, yes, he had some mistakes, but by far, I think was Vince Williams' best game as a defender, and looked like an NBA defender. But that lineup out there of when Vince Williams and Jaren Jackson Jr. were both on the court, defense-wise, was amazing, was huge. And had they not dug themselves into a hole, a 20-point deficit, that's a different ball game in that third and fourth quarter, because they really looked like that a team that they have looked like over the past week and a half or so. Like, they looked like a team that played defense at a high level and generated offense. But every time they played defense at a high level in that third quarter, it seemed like every time they got a run out, a transition bucket, it was a turnover. I mean, it seemed like they just, nobody could hold on to the ball last night. And so it was just those little things. And every time you get down by 20, and those little things are magnified even more. They're magnified to a degree that that becomes a detriment. I mean, obviously turnovers are never good, but when you need every single possession and you get stop after stop after stop, and you get it, you do that several times in a row, And the Mavs are literally just like they're giving you every opportunity to get back in this game, and you're just throwing the ball away on transitions. And that seems like a lot of turnovers. It was just literally in transition at the bucket or passing in transition. It was just everybody could not get on the same page at the same time in those transition buckets. And that, I think, was the biggest problem for the Grizzlies last night. They got the opportunities to make the comeback and couldn't finish it, right? That, and obviously getting down by 20 in the first place when your defense in that early part of the game just was not, I would say they were getting punked, if you will. But by far, Vince Williams did the best job on Luka. They end up playing, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They ended up playing 11 guys last night. I think there was a point where Taylor Jenkins was literally playing anybody. He was like, hey, can you rebound? Are you willing to rebound and play defense? They get in the game. Get in the game. I don't care. You in the stands. Get in the game if you're willing to rebound and play defense. Was trying literally everything. Xavier Tillman Jr. played 6 minutes, and Jalen Noel. Neither one of those guys really were up to the task. It really was more of it was an 8-man rotation last night. With Zaire kind of being the 8th man. John Contra with another 25 minutes. And what wasn't bad. Again, I know a notorious John Contra hater on this show. But in terms of defense, was really, really good on defense. And I think that's John Contrar's place. He's not an offensive guy. But unfortunately for the Grizzlies, they haven't really been able to play him in that role because, you stick out, Vince Williams and John Conchar and, Derrick Rose and David Roddy in the court. And sometimes nobody wants to take a shot. You saw it last night where I think there's one point where it was, Vince Williams, John Conchar, and maybe it was David Roddy or maybe it was Derrick Rose. They were just dribbling into the paint and passing and dribbling into the paint and passing. And like literally no one would take the shot. No one would take the shot. I was going to the TV, just please someone shoot the ball. And shocker, it ended with a shot clock violation. So, that's the problem when you put those guys out on the court together. While the defense soars, it just makes life on offense very difficult if you're not getting those transition buckets. And last night they couldn't handle it because of the turnover. So, I think we'll see. I think we'll see maybe Vince Williams get into crack the starting lineup next game. I think that would be interesting to see, just to see how that goes along. I think that's a Derrick Rose, Vince Williams, Desmond Bane, Santi, and Jaren. Maybe he takes out David Roddy, move David Roddy to the bench. I don't know, but it's interesting combination because David Roddy does have a little bit more offense than some of these guys on the bench. David Roddy is a good player, as we said all along on the show. He's just in a role that he's not ready for yet. He's a good player, but he should be playing 10, 12 minutes a night, not 20, 30 minutes, or not 25, 30 minutes a night. And that's kind of the issue with David Roddy is that while I think he's a good player and his development is on the right trajectory, I just don't think he's in a position where he needs to be playing that many minutes because, that's going to ask a lot for the kid. And he's in a point where I don't think his offense is just quite up there yet. Although you can see that it exists for him. And unlike some of these other guys, John Conchar and frankly, Zaire Williams, you sometimes can't even see it exist. Zaire Williams was pretty bad last night. He came in, has played 15 minutes, hit a 3. There's some loose balls, some rebounds here and there, but overall was pretty bad on defense. Got blown by, got taken off the dribble by Seth Curry several times. And if that's happening, obviously there's some problems in your defense. But Santi Aldama has not, really been Santi Aldama that we thought he was going to be at the beginning of the season. I think that's another thing I don't think we talk about enough is, Santi's got to be better. He was looked at on this team to really be an offensive plug off the bench, a guy that can score the basketball, a guy that can really do some stuff. And he's just not been good this season. He's been very, very forgetful. That's a very good term. He's been very forgetful. You can throw him out there and did he play? I don't really remember that he played because I don't remember if he did literally anything at all in this game. And so Santi Aldama has been very, forgetful. Derrick Rose, again, last night, 7 points, 4 assists, also very forgetful. But he's a guy, again, I don't think was ever, he's playing a position was never supposed to be wasn't supposed to be playing 17 minutes a night. Wasn't supposed to be playing 25 minutes a night sometimes. So, he was, I think, you're supposed to be a really, backup, third point guard essentially. And so now he's starting in Ja's place. And so, the injuries are just still very loom large for this team. They're still just missing really key players. And if you look at this, the guys that they're missing, the points they're missing off, it's an enormous amount of points. Starting with Ja Morant, he can get you 30, he can get you 50 on any given night. 30 a night. Marcus Smart scores a lot. Nard Dog scores a lot. I mean, it's just a lot of points sitting on that injury list. And the Grizzlies, are, again, we talk about the offensive woes, and that is the biggest problem with this team. And I think, once Ja comes back, once you get fully healthy, I think you fix all those things. I think early on, I said that I don't know how many things Ja fixed because the problem was the defense. And now you can clearly see that they can turn the defense on when they need it. They just cannot score the basketball. And that's tough. That's tough. So lastly, if you look at the score by quarter last night, 29-24 in the first, 29-28 in the third, 24-34 in the fourth. A lot of those were garbage time buckets. It was largely a game. That should have been closer, but 38-27 in the second. Dallas outscoring Memphis 38-27 in that second quarter. So that's all I really need to know. That is the game, that second quarter, and that is all you need to know about how that game ended. So let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. On the other side, we will do our stats monster, and we award that to the one player we think was the best last night.
I am highly upset, man.
Oh, man.
ESPN, you dastardly dogs you. Last week had us feeling good. They picked the Grizzlies to be first in the West with about 48.5 wins. And what a difference a few days makes.
What a difference.
You put out your list of the top 100 players in the NBA. Desmond Bain jumps in at 61. Jaren Jackson Jr. comes in at number 31. Jaren's top 25 to me, but if you all right, whatever. I think that's a little slight to Jaren. Desmond Baines is disgusting, in my opinion. But then we get Ja Morant, all-NBA player, two-time All-Star, one of the most dynamic offensively players in the NBA, Ja Morant. That guy was number 35 on their list, Kenny Stubblefield. The same people that said the Grizzlies will be the first team in the West. They're going to get that done with just some regular dudes.
Tune in to the Anthony Sane Show Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 p.m. weekly on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Just curious, you kind of talked about the transfers and things like that. How has that changed your mindset from a roster management standpoint? Like, incredible recruiter. All the classes, I think we had 2 back-to-back and 21 and 22 top classes. How does that change with the transfer portal? Do you start focusing more on upperclassmen? Do you kind of get away from the younger freshmen? How does that work?
Yeah, so I still believe in our coaching staff and the way we do things and developing guys. And that I will never get away from that philosophy. We're still going to recruit a high school class. Now, there's a lot of colleges out there that say, screw this. We're pushing all the chips in on this roster, win right now, and we'll figure it out. Sure. And if it doesn't, right, it implodes and bad things happen. But I think you still have to bring in true freshmen and develop them and see what they can become. And that I'll never waver from that. But the portal certainly changed things.
Tune in to Tigers Untapped with TJ Willis and Trey Lasley every Wednesday at 3 p.m. on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Welcome back to the show, The Daily Grind, where we talk about the Grizzlies every single day right here, every day at 9 a.m. I'm your host, Mark, along with Luke most of the time, but he's out today sick. Before we get started on our second segment, as you know, it is the shameless promotion time. If you're not already a Bluff City Media Insider, make sure you go and do so. It is a really cool, super fun, and super awesome, and super cheap. It's $5 a month to get you access to our Discord and all the other cool items at our over at Bluff City Media. We also have just launched a brand new merch site. So it's bluffcitymerch.com. That's where all our cool stuff is. This week only, we're doing 30% off with code XMS23. So make sure you go and get all of your awesome stuff for Christmas. I think the deadline for ordering Christmas stuff is December the 14th. Get it in time before Christmas. So make sure you go and do that. Make sure you go over to bluffcitymerch.com. That's where all of the stuff is. Again, lots of new items. Just launched the site yesterday, just in time for some last-minute orders for Christmas. So lots of cool things over there. Lots of cool stuff to check out. If you see something you don't like, let us know. We'll be happy to add more stuff. And we're adding new stuff every day. we'll start to launch deals of the day where we basically have a shirt or a hoodie or a hat or something half off. This cool hat is over there. This cool dad hat is this embroidered dad hat says Memphis on it is over there. You can get that too. So make sure you check it out. Become a Bluff City Media Insider. You get extra 20% off all the time over at our store. And you get access to early merchandise before everybody else gets access to it as well. So back to the show, and it's going to be our Stats Monster segment of the show. We've already kind of talked about it, and I think we all know who this is, but it's Jaren Jackson Jr. 41 points, like I mentioned, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, and only 3 personal fouls. 6 for 10 from 3, 15 for 29 from the field. Although, Desmond late tried to give Jaren a run for the money on Stats Monster. He ended up with 28 points, 8 assists, 3 rebounds, and a steal. But Desmond, 5 turnovers by himself. And Desmond, that's what did you in. The turnovers are what did you in for the Stats Monster Award. Jaren, we will ship the plaque out, the paper out to your home. As you know, we watch the show every single day. I know that you do. So we will send that so you can hang it up with all your other trophies and awards. There's your Stats Monster for December 12th. Coming up next, we will talk about what to expect before the Grizzlies, before Ja returns.
Seth Hennigan just still. He
doesn't look himself.
He just doesn't, in the big moments, he's not making the plays that have to be made. If you look at the raw stats, they're not terrible, but the 2 interceptions.
Yeah.
And he fumbled twice. They didn't lose those fumbles, but 2 fumbles and 2 interceptions, one of them coming at a terrible time on a 4th down late in the game when Memphis really needed to put points on the board. But I just don't think Seth is playing well enough to elevate this team.
Right.
I think he's playing well enough for Memphis to be fine, but as far as for them to do something special and to elevate this team, he's just not playing like that.
Tune in to On the Bluff with Christian Fowler and Gabe Kuhn every Tuesday at 12 p.m. on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Kenny, there are certain guys in the NBA that are enigmatic players. They're going to be appealing to a large fan base. But when you have guys like that, who like Ja Morant, who have off-court issues he's had, Kyrie Irving has had the things he's had, the NBA doesn't particularly like the fact that those guys are larger than life. If I'm the NBA, if I'm ESPN, who of course are working together on all this stuff, I'm going to start telling you who you need to like. And it's going to be a different type of guy to kind of play off of the guys that are going to be there anyway. Let me put these squeaky clean image guys that we want to put in front of you up there as well to kind of counteract some of the stuff we get with the guys that we don't have any control out of. So let me put the Tyrese Halliburtons in front of you. Let me put the Shai Gilgeous-Alexanders in front of you, the Josh Giddeys. Let me force these guys in front of you, not particularly on national television games, but let me just kind of create these little sub agendas with these guys to kind of make them those second tier stars that we're gonna like put out in front as well. Like, they're doing this on purpose, man. Like, if anybody can't see this, like, come on, man. Do not sit there and tell me that you really think that Tyrese Halliburton is a top 20 player in the NBA.
Tune in to The Anthony Sane Show, Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 p.m. weekly on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Welcome back to the Daily Grind, a daily Memphis Grizzlies show right here on Bluff City Media. Are you subscribed to this YouTube channel? If not, take the time to go do that right now. It's the cordial thing to do, and it really helps us out. It's free. It's easy. Subscribe to the YouTube channel over at Bluff City Media, and you will not miss a thing, especially things like Grizz 901 live post-game. Every single game, after the game, we have a live post-game show. Daniel and Nate host that show, Grizz 901. Those guys are really fun and exciting. It's a very interactive show. They put your comments up. They really go back and forth with the audience. So it's really fun. So check that out after every single game. We also have Anthony Sane coming on Wednesdays and Fridays on the YouTube channel. He does a show, and it's an actual show. You just saw a commercial for it. He's really obviously can be very wild at times, if you will. Sane is a very talented and very smart and has an excellent show as well. The Grizzlies have just 3 games until Ja returns. So it's going to be at Houston on Wednesday, tomorrow, Friday back here home Friday with Houston at home, and then at Oklahoma City Thunder on Monday. And then Ja will return on Tuesday, the back-to-back December 19th, which is my birthday. Shout out to me. At the Pelicans, and then his home debut will be next Thursday, not this Thursday, but the Thursday after that, a week and a half from now, Thursday, December 21st, against the Pacers. So the Grizzlies have 2 games against the Rockets. I think you have to at least go 1-1 in those games. I think if you go 1-1 in those games, lose to the Thunder, which I think will probably happen, I think that's probably a win. Like that would consider that a success if you go 1-2 over the next 3 games. I do think though the Houston Rockets are a team that you could grab 2 wins against. I just don't think they're that good. The Houston Rockets are, they really struggle on the road. So you would think that Houston game at home is your best chance to win against Houston. But it's not like. They're 11-9, and yes, that record indicates they're a much better team than the Grizzlies. I just think there are a lot of things in that team that will fall apart eventually. I don't know if you'll get the Dillon Brooks all along. I think they're, getting the best version of Dillon Brooks, and will probably fall off after that. Is my opinion. But still, they really struggle on the road. Even at 11-9, they really are tough team to or tough. Team or what the team that really struggles to win on the road. So I don't know why was struggling to say that, but I think you could get at least one of those. I think if you could grab 2 of them, that would be amazing. And then obviously OKC, one of the best teams in the West right now, and you just played the best in the West in Minnesota 17-5 and gave them run for their money. And that just goes to show you if the Grizzlies have a little more offense, their defense is good enough to compete with some of these teams. And so if you're looking for silver linings and you're looking to be positive every day, that's where you should look for, is that you look at some of these teams and they've really played well against some of these teams over the last week and a half since their defense has really stepped up, and they've been able to stay with them at times. They just could not compete on the offensive end. And so knowing that your offensive reinforcements are coming sooner rather than later, I think you can be positive about that. And so, the Oklahoma City Thunder, they're second in the West, 15-7 right now. It's going to be a tough game because Chet Holmgren is very big, and that's ultimately the problem. You saw that against Minnesota, Rudy Gobert was the issue, and they had real problems with Rudy Gobert and Karl Towns. They had real problems keeping them off the offensive rebounds and just rebounds in general. They had problems going into the lane like that. That was something that they struggled with. And so I think the Grizzlies are going to continue to struggle with that against Oklahoma City Thunder as well. And I think that's going to be a problem there. Ja's not going to fix that. Luke Kennard's not going to fix that. Marcus Smart's not going to fix that. So the Grizzlies are going to have to find something and do something just talent-wise, just player-wise, because right now, currently, they have no real big that can compete on a night in and night out basis and keep all the other bigs off the boards. And I think that's the issue ultimately, is that, that's going to be one of the things that will be a struggle with, I think, all season, missing Brandon Clark and quite frankly, mostly Steven Adams. And so, like I said in the first segment, that's something they're going to have to look at. What do they want to do with Steven Adams going forward? Do they feel good about Steven Adams going to be back next year? Do they feel like when he comes back, everything's going to be all good and he's going to be totally healthy and have no problems when he's spending a year and a half out already? And that's a question I think they're going to have to decide for themselves internally. Or do they decide to possibly look at a trade that would send a Brandon Clark or a Steven Adams out and possibly shore up that center rotation for longer term than just this year, look at the next year. So if the Grizzlies do make a trade for a center kind of position, I don't think they'll make that trade for just this year. I don't think that they're at a point where they're looking to get, looking to find a player just for a stopgap. They thought Bismack Biyombo was going to be that, and he has been a little bit, but over the last weeks he's been pretty bad. He's just not big enough, and that's again same thing with Jaren. They're just not big enough to keep some of the centers off the boards, and so that's something that the Grizzlies will have to really assess in the future. But if the Grizzlies can go 1-2 over the next 3 games before Ja returns, I think that is success. But once Ja returns, they're gonna have to roll off a lot of wins to really get back in the picture. They are they're what, 7 back out of the 10 seed right now. So they're getting pretty far behind. And that's, New Orleans and Golden State have won quite a few over the last week or so. And so they're 6 back. They're out of all these teams. The Clippers and Phoenix only have 12 wins. However, they've only played as many games as New Orleans and Golden State, who have 13 wins and 10 wins, and that's why those losses are higher and they're lower in the standings. But so Golden State is 11th with 10 wins. The Clippers are 8th with 12 wins. The Phoenix with 12 wins as well. So they're 6 back from any real play-in spot. So they're gonna have to rattle off a lot of wins when Ja returns to really get back into the conversation. That's it for today's show. Join us tomorrow, like every other day at 9 a.m. The show will be here. Hopefully I'll be back with Luke, and we'll be back. It's been a while since we've been on the show together because he was out, then I was out, then he was out, then I was out. So we'll be back tomorrow, just like we are every single day, though. Hopefully we'll be back together, and we will see you guys then.